Welcome to MACC Talk, a Middle Tennessee podcast from Monthaven Arts and Cultural Center in Hendersonville, Tennessee. I'm Kennedy Galpin, one of the staffers here at the MACC. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at NOC College of Art and Design. Located just north of downtown Nashville, NOC is the perfect creative oasis for art students and teachers to collaborate and learn.
Thank you, Kennedy, and welcome everyone to MACC Talk. I'm your host, John Pitcher. We like to think of the MACC as a cultural town square where we encourage everyone to be their creative best. So, Kennedy, I know you're the creative sort in a lot of different ways, so you must have been doing some creative stuff lately. What have you been up to?
So, I have been drawing a lot. That's normal. I try to do that daily. Mm-hmm. Well, tell me about yourself, though, because you have like a degree in graphic design or what digital media, technically. So it's actually more of like the visual effects side of digital media. In that, I went to East Tennessee State University, and there, my degree in digital media, it was split into 4 different concentrations, I would say. And you had game design, visualization, digital media, and animation. So I started out in animation. Didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. Went to visual effects. And in that, it was either the video side or the motion graphic side. And I like the motion graphic side. So I do that in my job normally, as well as graphic design. And yeah.
I think of you almost as someone who would be a great video game designer because you're such a big PlayStation 5 fan.
Yeah.
And like video games.
I have gotten into that.
And you are very, very good at drawing those kinds of figures.
Yeah, I actually started getting back into comic books as well. Uh-huh. So I've been drawing a lot from those too. That's a dangerous hobby.
I guess so.
If you like art like me.
Yeah, I guess so. It's addictive, right?
Yes. Like weekly visits to the comic book store. It's a lot.
And it seems like every time I talk to you, you've got a new video game.
Yeah, it's true.
That is so cool. Well, let's go ahead and introduce today's guest. Donna Woodley is curator of the exhibit Black Vibrations, which runs through March 23rd at Monthaven Arts and Cultural Center. This amazing exhibition features 54 works by more than a dozen of Middle Tennessee's preeminent Black artists. Donna is the perfect curator for this exhibit. An art instructor at Tennessee State University and successful studio artist, Donna was named Nashville's Best New Artist in 2016 by the Nashville Scene. She has exhibited both nationally and internationally, and she was a featured artist for the representative Lewis Mural Project installed in downtown Nashville. We are thrilled that she's here to talk about Black Vibrations. Donna Woodley, welcome to MACC Talk.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, I've been really blown away by seeing this exhibit. I'm blown away by the variety that is in there. Mm-hmm. I'm blown away by the expressive range of this exhibit. It's really amazing. I'm blown away by the colors. I think what really surprised me was just the variety of mixed media. Mm-hmm. In this exhibit. You know, I almost want to touch everything, and I know I can't touch anything. But it's just such a fun exhibit. So I just wanted to ask you just a few basic questions first. The exhibit has a really cool title, Black Vibrations. Tell me, what does that mean? What's the inspiration? Is there anything especially significant that the viewer might want to know about the title?
Well, I came up with that among a few others, and that just seemed to be the best one, stemming from the root word vibe, to create a specific vibe and like a fun, celebratory, but also informative vibe, centered around Black experience. And so Black Vibrations, it's like the definition of vibrations is to create like a frequency, so movement, you know, that sort of thing. So yeah, that it's kind of the title is self-explanatory in a way, but it does have some layers to it.
Okay. Yeah. And it does seem kind of musical, and it is a very celebratory kind of exhibit. So I can see that. I can definitely see that. How did you go about, as the curator, how did you go about selecting the works that are in this exhibit? They're over 50, right?
They're over 50. I think about 54, 52 to 54. And Actually, all of the artists I have been around, I know their work, and my mind, once I got the go ahead to be curator for the show, I already had specific things in my head that I wanted to include. One being Samuel Dunson's work. And then I'm just around these artists all the time. And I was like, oh my gosh, this will be great to be able to arrange them in a different way. So there were some artists that I was like, oh yeah, that would be great. Ashley Mintz is somebody who I love her work and just her spirit, and it shines through with her work. And so I thought that would be a great addition. And then Michael McBride, of course, some pieces that when I go into the studio, because we share studio space, I see them every day and I if I'm staring at something, I'm like, I really like that, so yeah, I had a lot of them already in mind. And then a couple of artists I had just met because I was a part of the selection committee for the Arcade Arts Residency in downtown Nashville.
Yeah, that was a Nashville Scene story lately.
Yeah. And so a couple of artists, I had just met them, even though I knew about them. And I was just like, okay, yeah, I want to get them in the show as well.
Okay, that actually anticipated my very next question was, did you already know all the artists in this show, or were there any surprising discoveries, new artists that you weren't familiar with but thought, I got to have this artist in this show?
I was surprised in a way, not surprised that the work was amazing, but just surprised at it just made me feel something great.
I was really surprised by, wow, I didn't know this artist was out here, and how did I not know that? This artist is so amazing.
Yeah. So
did
Rod
you have
Magaha,
anyone like that?
Yeah, Rod Magaha is a world-renowned musician, and in addition to that, he's an amazing visual artist.
Well, I was going to ask you about Rod too. You're anticipating all my questions, because when I first got the list of artists and I was going through it and I saw Rod Magaha, I was kind of like, did she send me the wrong list? Is this a typo? Is this a mistake? Because Rod is very, very well known as a great jazz trumpet player in Nashville.
Yes.
He does the Nashville Jazz Workshop. I think he's from Chicago. He just does a lot of amazing things. And it was news to me that the guy was also an artist. Tell me a little bit about him.
Well, he's one of those that I just met. And so when I saw his work, and just the freedom. So I would say, and I've never seen him perform as a musician, but just his personality comes through in the work. It's just this freedom and lighthearted, or openness to doing different things. He's a resident at the Arcade Arts in that residency, and so to come into his studio to select the works that that I wanted, just to see what he was doing. Just he has his studio as an installation essentially, so people can come in, and there was different things on the wall that he's using the space fully, not just making photography or making pieces.
Now I mostly know his visual art now as photography. Does he do other things besides photography?
I think it's mainly photography, but I would definitely throw in installation just off of what I saw in his studio space there. But I think that he does altered photography. So maybe some pure photography, but also altered photography.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one of the pieces in the show is called Blow Your Own Horn, which I don't know if that's a homage to anyone. It seems to be a homage to Coltrane or any great sax player. I don't know. It made me think about that. Awesome. And then there's another one. I think it's called, is it Reflection?
Reflection, yes.
Okay. That's another one that was really very expressive.
Yeah, and intense, but not in a.
The shading, the shadows.
Yeah.
It was just very. I couldn't stop looking at it.
Yeah, that one sticks out. All of them stick out to me. The one that I gravitate toward that's nostalgic to me is Cousins. That's the one on the big wall there with the balloon, And there's quilting, there's like silhouettes of little girls with the balloon. The connection is the balloon.
And that resonates with you because it just reminds you of...
It reminds me of how I grew up.
Okay.
Yeah. Just I have several cousins who are like sisters and brothers to me as opposed to cousins. But I don't really think there's a difference. Like, you know, you grow up together, you play in the yard together, we turn flips, you know, all sorts of things like that. So that piece made me think of those times.
We're speaking with Donna Woodley, curator of the MACC's current exhibit, Black Vibrations. We'll be back after this important message.
NOSI College of Art and Design reminds us that arts education is an essential part of a balanced student. It helps students develop creativity, critical thinking skills, and problem solving. NOSI is a college built around your imagination. Find them online at www.nosi.edu.
We're back with Donna Woodley, curator of the MACC's exhibit, Black Vibrations. Well, I have to say that the piece that I found most arresting, or maybe that's not the right word, the one that just kind of really grabbed my attention, and I saw it just as I walked into the gallery, and kind of from my peripheral vision on the left, I saw this really big portrait of Malcolm X. And before I even walked over to it, I thought to myself, I bet you anything that's by my friend Michael McBride.
Absolutely.
And because I just, you know, the author Gabriel Garcia Marquez, one of my all-time favorite authors, was known for his magical realism, that sort of style. And I think sometimes of Michael McBride for his magical chromaticism, because it's like he fuses sort of the fantastical with the real.
Yes.
And here in this case with Malcolm X, he's got red hair and a blue goatee, you know, and
green
it's just
glasses.
lime green glasses. They're just it's just the best colors.
Yes.
And yet it also is very much a realistic, other than his decision to use those colors, very realistic. You know, I mean, he can draw. I mean, Michael McBride can draw anything in any style.
Absolutely. Yes.
But tell me a little bit about Michael and about that approach.
Michael is Michael is my mentor. He is somebody that has been. I took a ceramics class when I was in school as a traditional student studying accounting, and I was super quiet as a young adult, and so I remember making this little elephant. And it was like the best elephant to me ever, you know, but fast forward some years later, decided to go back to school to pursue art, visual arts. And he was there and remembered me. And he's just been a great mentor, loves to help people and makes amazing work. And he's kind of like one of those, for lack of a better term, like a silent assassin, I like to say, because he'll like do something amazing and then you'll look up and he'll be over here or over there. And it's like, when did this happen?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And he's so humble about it, you know.
Well, he does lots of different kinds of things, but tell me a little bit about that use of crazy color, because you do see that, and you see other fantastical things in some, not in all of his works,
in all of it,
just in a select grouping, but still I find that fascinating.
So that iconic piece is called an iconic series, and so there are several like that where there are crazy colors. I think he has one of Dolly Parton, and some other icons in their various fields. But in particular, Malcolm X, the one thing that I love about that painting is the technical success in that painting. If you were to take, there's a kind of this, it's like a piece of glass. I'm not sure what the name of the mechanism is called, but it's something to help you see value, and value in painting is very important. And so if you were to put, it's like a red tinted glass, if you were to put that in front of that painting, you would be able to see the different values outside of the color. So it becomes kind of grayscale. And then you're able to see all of these contrasting values and a wide range of value. I've tried it on. It's a good tool to use. Now that says that's a very good technically done painting, first off. And then the selection of colors, I think, go really well together. The lime green, the red hair, the shadow in the glasses that I think that contributes to that realistic quality of it.
Right.
That shadow. So
and the whole background I think is purple.
Yeah,
and
I think the background
works.
is purple. It all works. It all works, and it's all kind of like this flat color. But in the subject matter, there are some differences in value in the face that give you that realistic quality as well. That I love. It reminds me of Alice Neal and the way that she would outline everything, but she had just this really realistic skin tone and different values, and the way that she depicted the person was realistic. But when she put that black outline there, it was like, okay, there's some push and pull here. So,
wow.
So his piece of Malcolm X reminds me a little bit of that.
Okay, and there's more of Michael in the show. There was another piece that I saw, and totally different from Malcolm. It's a piece called Teachable Moment. And I saw that, and before I even went over to see who the art was by, I thought, I bet you that's Michael McBride.
Right.
Because Michael, and I don't know what the story is with that particular piece, but Michael does do a lot of book illustrations, especially children's book illustrations. And I could see that as being something from one of his children's books. It's an adult who seems to be having a serious conversation with a very, what might I say, pensive-looking boy, young man. It's but maybe someone who did something wrong and is now getting the talk from the grown-up. Maybe, but I mean, and of course, that's without my knowing the story. But tell me a little bit about. I mean, is that part of his illustrated?
Now that
painting, or what is that?
I don't. So that one is actually his son-in-law with his grandson. Oh. And so it's just teachable moment. It could be that. It could be, but I think it's more so a tone of like how this is how you tie a tie. You know what I mean? I think it's kind of like that tone. That's what I get from it.
And I didn't know, but it definitely looked like the kind of stuff he might do for one of his books, because he's actually published a lot of books. Yeah.
It does give off that that feel of it has an illustrative quality to it, I would say. I would agree with you on that for sure.
When I was that age, I would have looked much more panicky trying to learn how to do a tie. So I thought that's fascinating. When you walk into the gallery to see this exhibit, you walk into there's a very big foyer, which goes to what we call the Wow Wall. And then there's a separate room, which is our West Gallery, where the Malcolm X is, and then we have an East Gallery.
Yes.
And what's so fascinating is the way you hung the show, is that there is another work of art that's directly all the way across the gallery. It's called By Any Means, and it's Omari Booker. And tell me a little bit about that piece. And I guess, the whole idea, was that a deliberate sort of juxtaposition of those two works?
That was very deliberate.
And the other, okay.
Yes, it was intentional. Didn't know that was going to happen before I walked in to place the works. Okay. But I had some things in mind for the two fireplaces. And then when I walked in, I think the By Any Means was already hung. And so then I just happened to walk in the West Gallery, and I saw Michael McBride's piece, and I was like, it was one of those moments, and I was like, okay, yeah, this has to go.
So you had a
there.
moment of inspiration.
Yeah, I had a moment of like that aha, yes, that's it. And so they kind of speak to each other, kind of like from a past, present, and future perspective. With just this idea of acknowledging Malcolm X and his contributions to civil rights, and his story in general, and then his dedication, and then for that in the present, and I would even venture to say future, acknowledging that through the X, you know, and wearing of the hat of the gentleman in the East Gallery.
Right.
And
now,
I love
that's not necessarily Malcolm X though, is it?
No, that is a African American man wearing a hat
that had an X on it.
Yeah.
Though. So almost a sort of a tribute to Malcolm X.
Right. And then the X is known, like X is kind of understood as a homage to Malcolm X. Because of the movie X, I would say. At least that's what my interpretation of that symbol is. Okay. If you see a black man or a woman or, you know, whoever with an X hat on, then that's what it makes me think of. So, and then that's what the reference is with Omari, you know, making a painting like that. So I just was so excited that it didn't even register until I got here and I saw it, that I was like, okay, there are 3 references to Malcolm X. There's By Any Means, there's the iconic piece from Michael McBride, and then there's also a piece by Lakeisha Calvin, which is that really big, tall piece of the gentleman, standing there, and then Malcolm X is in the background.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, or a portion of his face is in the background. Okay. Yeah.
I mentioned earlier that I was really taken with a lot of the mixed media that I see here, and of course, Omari also has a very interesting mixed media piece called, I think it's called The Drug War, if I'm remembering that right. Probably the first mixed media piece I've ever seen that had pill bottles and bullets in it, in both.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that piece.
Now that piece, I can tell you why I chose the piece. I know that his story, and I'm hoping that he'll definitely be I'm hoping he'll be at the Artist Talk to tell a little bit about himself. But I know that he has a very interesting story that is that piece is very personal to him, because it looks like a self-portrait. I'm pretty sure that it is. But the pill bottles talk about kind of like this idea of the drug war and, like, I would say usage and the selling of drugs and just that whole system, and how I can only give you my view of it.
Sure.
But just how that there are some strategic systems in place to keep it going, even though it's illegal, but everybody's involved.
Right. Well, and what the painting shows, or the mixed media piece shows, is a man holding puppet strings.
Yes.
And the strings go down to these pill bottles, and some of the bottles have pills in them, and others have bullets in them. I guess they're related to the business of of drugs.
Yes.
And I guess the message there is that people, communities are being manipulated by this illicit business.
Absolutely, yes. That's a good way to put that. Yeah.
So we're speaking with Donna Woodley, curator of the MACC's current exhibit, Black Vibrations. We'll be back after this important message.
Creativity involves breaking out of established patterns in order to look at things in a different way. MACC College of Art and Design reminds us that creativity consists of rearranging what we know in order to find out what we do not know. To think creatively, we must be able to look freshly at what we normally take for granted. MACC College of Art and Design. If people say you're different, welcome home. Find us online at www.noc.edu.
We're back with Donna Woodley, curator of the MACC's exhibit, Black Vibrations. I was really struck by it. I do think that the mixed media, if I can even call it that, that's what it is. The thing that probably captured me the most, or at least maybe do a double take, was a pair of works by Samuel Dunson.
Yes. Which
I think called Strategic Alliance for Mutually beneficial growth. Strategic Alliance for Mutually Beneficial Growth. That's a long title. I had to read that one. Tell me about those pieces. They are also juxtaposed, one on either side of the West Gallery.
Right.
They look like dolls.
Yes.
Sitting in chairs. But tell me about them.
So yeah, they're soft sculptures, seated in chairs. Number one, the way that he made them like to hang, to me, that's one of the things that I'm most impressed by, like how the chair hangs and how he, the cloth selection and then making of the helmet and just painting on the faces and just is so much. The mixed media of those two are, to me, there's no other way to do it. Now I have them situated. So this body of work, and there are some other soft sculptures or soft pieces that he has in the show. As I've talked with him, he's expressed like this idea of Afrofuturism, that as it relates to this body of work that he's done. The way that I kind of see the two pieces, Umama and Ubaba, just in my mind, they're seated almost at the heads or at the two ends of almost like a dinner table.
Yeah.
For Sunday dinner.
Well, one of the soft sculptures is a man, one's a woman.
Yes.
And so that just sort of, that fact alone made me think about, well, what does the title of these pieces mean? Strategic Alliance for Beneficial Growth. And I'm almost thinking of a married couple.
Yeah.
And, they've learned to get along for their own benefit so they don't kill each other or something. Right. I don't know.
Yeah. And when I first saw them, they were positioned together. So I would say that that's a safe inference, to marriage. But I wanted to have them directly across from each other. It just gave me that idea of like community, mom and dad at the dinner table for Sunday dinner, let's say, and then all of the other artworks are like the family. So not necessarily the children, but it could be. But the crazy part is that those two pieces remind me of the past and what could be in the future because of
there's an astronaut
helmet. Because of the astronaut like helmet, and then the past and history because of the bound arms and things like that. So it's really the work that those two pieces are two of my favorites, and they're really layered and kind of include all of these things that pull from history but then expand to the future.
One of the things I think I mentioned to you downstairs when we were looking at the exhibit, and one of the things that strikes me about this exhibit, and I'm sure there's so much more that I could get just by spending more time in there, but the personalities that are created by these artists strike me as being very, very big personalities, and also very enjoyable human people. I mean, they're just you just want to get to know some of these people. Yes. There's a series of charcoal drawings that includes a woman named Vera, and that's Nadine Schillingford, and her stuff is incredibly expressive.
Yes.
I mean, she really captures personality, I feel.
I feel that way too.
And then I mentioned another one to you. I think it's Granny in the House by Shadale Smith.
Yes.
That's actually the image we used on our website to promote the exhibit. And I first saw it as just a JPEG, as an image. Yeah. And my first impression is, because after the exhibit was hung, I went down looking for it and I couldn't find it at first. And I thought, well, this is I gotta be able to find this. It's got to be such a big piece of work. Yeah. And then when I found it, it's actually a very small piece of work. It's 12 by 12. I mean, size-wise.
Yes.
But the personality that she captured is just incredibly big and joyful. And I mean, did any of that that capture you when you were sort of going through these works and picking them back? Like, I would really like to know that person.
Yes, it did with Shadell, and I do know Shadell. She's such a lively, like bubbly person who has dealt with a lot in life, and just to see those works. These 4 works that are in the show of hers are some of the first portraits that she's done. She generally does like abstract work, and she'll use words, encouraging words in the work, in her work. So to see her do portraiture so well first time around, and to still incorporate her style with the words like joy and peace and those sorts of things, I thought was extraordinary, and it made me drawn to those 4. So she has Granny in the House, and then she has Mama Used to Say. And then she actually did a portrait of me called Dee Lee, and then a portrait of her sister entitled Sister Sister. So yeah, with flowers and all the things that are joyful in nature and filled with nature and peaceful. So yeah.
Well, I have to ask you about an artist I'm not familiar with, and I hope I'm saying the name right. X-Pain.
X-Pain.
Tell me about this artist. The artist has created a piece called Dance, and it's like I think every modern artist has to create a kind of dance-like piece. Picasso or Matisse, they all have their dance pieces. So tell me a little bit about this artist.
So I've known of X-Pain for quite a while, but I actually just met him as a function of the Arcade Arts residency. And he is such a, from what I experienced, he's such a quiet presence, but a very mighty presence. And his work is amazing to me because it's so like perfectly done. So even the little dots that he may use of spray paint, or these, it's very strategically placed and well done and so neat. And even though it's like I don't want to say even though there's an abstractness to it. That to me highlights the elements of art and highlights some of those principles of design, like movement and dance. There's a lot of movement in it, and then he's using color and neutrals in a very balanced way.
Right. So the figures are anonymous, so I guess they could be anybody.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So what he's really focusing on then, it seems to me, is maybe the energy.
I would say
as
so.
opposed to so when you see dance, you're really focused on the energy of that dance as opposed to like looking at a specific person.
Right. Yeah, so, I would venture to say
the person could be anybody.
It could be anybody to the viewer. Now, as far as who he set it out to be, I'm not sure if he had that in mind, but yeah, in my mind that dancer could be anybody. Yeah. And it could be a symbol to encourage people to dance, that sort of thing. So I would agree with you.
We're speaking with Donna Woodley, curator of the MACC's current exhibit, Black Vibrations. We'll be back after this important message.
MACC College of Art and Design reminds us that arts education is an essential part of a balanced student. It helps students develop creativity, critical thinking skills, and problem solving. MACC is a college built around your imagination. Find them online at www.noc.edu.
We're back with Donna Woodley, curator of the MACC's exhibit, Black Vibrations. Well, one other artist I'd like you to comment on just for a moment. We've had her here before, but I'm never cease to be amazed by the colors that Barbara Hodges chooses.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about Barbara and her art. I don't want to leave out Leroy, but I want to talk about Barbara because she really really knocks me out.
She's an amazing artist, number one, and very, very humble person. She just has a way of, I think she creates like nostalgic narratives, like the piece that is in the West Gallery, with where it looks like almost like a wooden relief in a way.
Yes.
Just those, I think she creates this nostalgic tone in her work that it makes me, at least, and it makes people want to know her story. And she's always working on her craft. She's always painting. I don't know how, I'm curious to know how many paintings she has. I've never asked her that, but she is always painting and always wanting to get better, and always has a point of view that I think is very significant in not only in Tennessee but just in general. So yeah.
Okay. Are there any other artists in particular that I can't mention everybody, but is there anyone else who you're just especially excited about getting for this show?
I was really excited to have Michael Mucker in the show.
Okay.
He has these he has very interesting story, number one, that I'll let him tell at the artist talk, but his pieces are so layered in that, like seeds, the piece with the seeds at the bottom, and then the trees and the gentleman that's looking down, like that piece is so amazing to me, just because it is like this way of talking about generations, and for lack of a better term, reproduction and family and things like that. Also, I'm trying to think of his other. The piece, The Story So Far, I think that's the name of the piece, if I'm not mistaken. That is a very layered piece as well, because it's a piece where he did a lot of research to kind of tell about history in one visual image. So there's a lot going on in that piece that I think is really interesting, that only he can talk about. I feel like I can't talk about it necessarily in the way that he would, because it's his piece and he did the research. But I know that that's what that piece is about. And then the other thing that I would say about Michael Mucker is there are pieces that they're like small pieces. They look the same, but they're slightly different in color. And I think some have fingerprints on them. One's named Piety, Fortitude, Counsel. The other name escapes me. But one would think that they would be best hung together, and that there's room for that. But I wanted to separate them to kind of create the meanings of those words, to generate a little bit of energy coming from those pieces into the spaces where they're hung. So they're hung kind of like in these little corners of the space, in different areas of the galleries, and I specifically, when I went and saw those particular works, I knew that was a decision that I knew I wanted before I even got into Monthaven. I knew that I was going to do that, as from a curatorial perspective. So,
well, one more question. Sure. What do you hope people take away from this exhibit when they come to see it?
I hope that people take away I hope that it makes them, curious about the way that the show was hung and the story that I wanted to tell with these selections and the different arrangements. But I also want them to be able to see the works individually and get to know the artist through the works. I feel like the combination of artists is what is the strongest about the show, and their works, of course, because they are such different pieces, but they all fall under the umbrella of certain topics. So that's so I want them to walk away feeling like really good about what they saw, really hopeful, and empowered.
Okay. Well, Donna, thank you. Thank you for being on MACC Talk.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, John. It was great.
You've been listening to MACC Talk from Monthaven Arts and Cultural Center. Our mission is to educate, elevate, and encourage our community through the transformative power of the arts. If you're interested in transforming your creative life, check out our website at monthavenarts.org. Our guest today was Donna Woodley, curator of the MACC's current exhibit, Black Vibrations. The exhibit is on display at Monthaven through March 23rd. Our podcast music was written by Nashville composer Christina Spinay. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.